With me now is Caroline Farrow, who's a columnist for the Catholic Universe newspaper. Good to see you. So what difference will this actually make in practice, do you think?
Well, in practice, I think it's going to make people perhaps soften their attitudes. One of the things that today's document said was that church doctrine, which is a wonderful, beautiful teaching, shouldn't be used to throw stones at people. It shouldn't be used as a weapon. And although that teaching is not being watered down in any way, people are still being encouraged that they must aspire to it and live up to it. There is a recognition that sometimes people fall short, sometimes through no fault of their own, that sort of culpability can be limited. And those people who perhaps are in what we would call irregular situations should feel welcomed, should feel free to come back to church, and it's been made clear that they must participate fully in the life of the church.
I suppose there are some people who don't like any change, and there are some people who wanted much more change on some of the other issues we talked about. I mean, is there a bit of disappointment that perhaps on contraception and other things he didn't say something slightly similar, that we can do a bit more?
Well, those who were hoping for change were, sadly, I think, rather misled or misguided, because the Pope doesn't have the authority to change the Church's teaching on this, and this document was never intended to do this. What this was about was taking sort of a snapshot of the health of the average churchgoer. This is why before the process started there was a survey, and Catholics were asked what they perceived as being their challenges for the family were, and the Church sort of used that as the basis for two synod processes, two discussions on what they could do to help people. But actually the core doctrine of the Church was never up for grabs. So although people could be disappointed, you know, that was never in the pipeline, and it's a shame in a way that there has been sort of so much anticipation over that.
But do you think that will inevitably continue? I mean, not just, you know, in terms of homosexuality and other things that people campaign strongly about, but also on contraception, a teaching which many church-going Catholics ignore, frankly.
Well, of course, the teaching on contraception is a difficult one, but just because something's difficult doesn't necessarily make it wrong or incorrect. You know, it's never easy doing what is right. When it comes to all these difficult doctrines, I can't see there being any actual change. But what has happened, so for example in the case of gay marriage and people who identify as gay, this document has been very clear, and Pope Francis has been very clear that, you know, there must be no unfair prejudice, harassment, aggression, violence. You know, we all know people who are gay, and we must make sure that they feel no animosity coming from us, no antagonism, but, you know, they are beloved sons and daughters of the Church too.
Caroline, thanks very much for coming in. Caroline.